Welcome to Shelf Life, the monthly series where I look at games I covered about half a year ago and let you know whether they're still in my collection. And today we're looking at games from the beginning of this year, January of 2023. There's a bunch of solid games this month, both large and small. Let's see which of them had shelf life. So our first matchup this month is Wildtails, a Pirate Legacy versus Wingspan Asia. And looking at Wildtails first, this is another button-shy game, so it's only 18 cards, but it's a legacy game. You're putting stickers on things. You're like adding unlockable elements as you go. And yeah, this one is a keep for me, but it's a keep because it's button shy. It's basically taking up no space on my shelf. Will I ever finish the campaign? I'm not sure if I will, but also it's not like a game I can trade or sell since I've already stickered some things up. The one thing I didn't love about the game, and I said this back in my original video, is that it doesn't have enough that changes over time, which is something I do like to see in Legacies sometimes, like some things that are more interesting as it unlocks. But it's certainly a fun, like, core gameplay loop, and I think the way they did Legacy in such a tiny package is super impressive. So that's Wildtails, which is a keep. Then we go to Wingspan Asia, which is a new standalone set. It has some new things for multiplayer play, but also has a new two-player mode and a solo mode. And I got to say, the best thing about this for me is the new two-player mode. I think it's really interesting with this kind of these yin-yang tokens you're putting on this board and trying to like kind of have area control for extra points. But the new solo mode I thought was just okay. It's a little bit meatier than the original, but also adds some elements that I didn't like really care for. It didn't seem very important. So this one was a cull for me. I think I gave it to Peter because he already has other Wingspan stuff, so he can play that with his family. All right, next is a totally equivalent and equal matchup. Aeon Trespass Odyssey, that's a giant game, versus Kapow, a head-to-head fighting game with the solo mode. And starting with Aeon Trespass, I made it no secret that while this is a huge game, and I don't know if I'll ever finish it, I love the narrative in it. I love the boss battles. I think there's like some awesome mechanics going on, and I am excited to play and see more. The mix of vaguely Seventh Continent exploration, although really it's quite a bit different. The fun like tech tree, the again crazy bosses, and even though I haven't gotten into the other acts, the big like mechanical changes and ways that the game evolves as you play more, it's all very exciting. So this one is a keep, although I am storing it at Peter's house because he's still trying to play through the campaign with his son currently. Then that brings us to Kapow, which again is a 1v1 fighting game with dice placement and kind of like some hidden information where you're trying to place your dice without knowing what the enemy will do. This does have a solo mode, and I think it works really well. The big thing against Kapow, in terms of it staying in my house, is that my kids and I love Exceed already, and like BattleCon and a bunch of other games. So Kapow is competing in kind of a similar space, even though it is just dice-based and doesn't have like any of the movement or such of those games. And the solo mode was fine, but was like a little bit swingier than I would personally prefer. So yeah, this one is a call. Aeon Trespass definitely beats it out. Sorry, Kapow. A third matchup is Darkest Dungeon, the board game, versus Final Girl, specifically Series or Season 2 of Final Girl. And starting with Darkest Dungeon, this is based on the popular video game IP. And I do like the video game, and I didn't love the board game. I discussed this in my review already, but while I found the combat pretty actually well done, and I like the mechanics, I found the exploration part, which you're seeing on the screen right now, just really dull, really drawn out and slow paced and kind of boring for what it does. Did not love that. And there were like some component issues with the game too, some things that are hard to see and manage. But the combat, again, is a really cool mechanic. I think this was pretty solid, pretty fun, the way like enemies activate, the different abilities you can use for your characters. There's a lot of neat stuff going on here. For me, it wasn't enough to save the game, but it might be enough for you. But yes, Darkest Dungeon, the board game, was a call, which means clearly Final Girl is a keep, at least for now. I will say, now that I have Season 1 and Season 2, it's gotten a little bit bigger than I would prefer it to be for the type of game it is. So maybe I'll call one of the seasons and keep another one. I'm not sure yet. But yes, Final Girl Season 2 have some awesome movie tie-ins. They have The Thing in the one that I did a playthrough of on the channel. They had a tie-in to Alien. Lots of cool mechanics. This continues to be one of my favorite solo systems. For fun and tension and narrative, it's not always the most balanced thing. It's not always the most strategic thing. Sometimes the dice are with you and sometimes they aren't. But it is a lot of fun. So at least for now, maybe not forever, Final Girl is the winner here, and it is a keeper. And that makes our last matchup, Paperback Adventures versus Sentinels of the Multiverse, the Rook City, what's the subtitle? I forget. The Rook City expansion, the new one. So we'll start with Paperback Adventures. This is a really cool concept for a game. It is a roguelite, solo, like card game where you're like making words, but then you're splaying them different ways to get different bonuses. And you're fighting these cool monsters and minions with consistent actions and easily predictable things they'll do, and you can try to match them. I think it's a fantastic system, but for some reason, I don't know. The fact that it's like not really a word game, like the words you make aren't necessarily that important as long as you just get the icons right. The fact that, like a lot of roguelites, it was kind of random whether my build came together in a strong or weak way. It's one of like Jason's top games, and he did a lot of playthroughs for it. But for me, it was just okay. So this ended up being a cull for me. But not surprisingly, since it's one of my top games, especially the new Definitive Edition, Sentinels is definitely a keep. I have already pledged for whatever the next one coming is, the like Shattered Timelines one or whatever. Rook City Renegades, I think that's the name. There we go. I didn't love everything about it. I felt like the heroes were slightly more hit or miss for me than the definitive ones in the original game, but still all definitely improved for my taste over the original Sentinels. So it wasn't like 100% of a slam dunk. If I don't love Timelines either, I'm not sure if I'll like keep going with all the new releases. But yeah, I love Sentinels in the Multiverse, especially for cooperative play. Just for my money, like the best kind of hero, awesome, be cool and do cool things game out there. So this is a definitely keeper, and it does beat out Paperback Adventures. So 4 games kept, 4 games called, not too bad of a month, but let's get to the contest and see which of you guessed correctly. So our first matchup was actually the toughest one for most people. Wildtails, 55% of you chose correctly, and Wingspan Asia got 45% of the votes. This is the one that messed up the most brackets. Then in Group 2, it was much more confident. 80% of you chose Aeon Trespass, and only 20% went for Kapow. Group 3 was even more confident. 92% of you said Final Girl, and only 8% for Darkest Dungeon. Sorry. And then finally, for Group 4, we had 74% of you picking Sentinels of the Multiverse and only 26% picking Paperback Adventures. So every single round, the majority got the correct answer, which is pretty cool. Or means that I'm pretty predictable. But here are our potential winners. The people in yellow are our Patreon supporters. You get double entries. People in red, Andrew and Jack, got everything correct, but they did not want to be entered in the contest. So I'm going to roll a D4 for a column and then a D10 for a row to figure out our winner. Okay, so it's column 4 and number 9, which is AJ Murray. You are our winner for this month. Congratulations, AJ. I'll be emailing you about which game from my collection you'd like to get. And for everybody else, thanks for watching Shelf Life. We had over 150 of you voting. Don't forget to vote in the next contest in the video description, and we'll see you in about a month. Good gaming, everybody.